Hello. Today I am reading from Pride and Prejudice. This is part of the Gerald Kraak anthology, an anthology on African perspectives on gender, social justice, and sexuality. I'm just going to give it a bit of time and see if there will be more people coming in. So this is the cover. This is the second volume. And this is the third one. And see, Sipiwe says, I'm taken by the cover of the book already. Yeah, this is my favorite. That was the first one. So as per every Wednesday, I read from one of the three, and I haven't read from Pride and Prejudice for a while. So since May. So today I'm reading from this one. I love the covers. Sipiwe, so if you haven't seen these ones, maybe check them out on Goodreads and go buy all three. So yeah. Hi everybody, welcome. So today on today's live reading, I am doing the weekly reading from the anthology, the Gerald Kraak anthology, which is a joint initiative between the Other Foundation and the Jacana Literary Foundation. I'll read the back of the book first, like I usually do, and then I'll continue with the reading. I'm going to show you a book that I received today from my good friend Lorraine. I'm so excited. That'll come up later. I'm going to be reading from Two Weddings for Amoit by Dilman Dila. But let me read the back and then I will continue. You love the cover. Yes, Yoli. Cool. So Sisonke Msimang is the editor-in-chief, and she is the head judge. So this is what she had to say about the anthology. This anthology walks the line between all that is dissident and everything that is normative. The stories in this collection zigzag between a desire for justice and a refusal to merely be tolerated. In these pages, you will find storylines that are achingly familiar, which play with tropes and mine them for truth. You will also find characters that come from the future, whose tenacity resists categorization even as it reflects a resilience we have always demonstrated. This collection reflects a political moment across this continent, a moment that is defined by space and freedom, even as these continue to be constrained. In other words, this is a queer collection, filled with brave, stirring, and multi-layered works of fiction, poetry, journalism, academic writing, and photography from across the African continent. This anthology offers new perspectives on what it means to be marginalized, forgotten, and stripped of one's humanity. Pride and Prejudice is a collection of the shortlisted entries to the inaugural award named after Gerald Kraak, born 1956 and passed on in 2014, who was a passionate champion of social justice and anti-apartheid activist. These stories are a badge of honor for those who work tirelessly to keep hope alive by working towards lasting change, and for those who continue to love in spite of the fear. Yeah, so Gerald Kraak is a joint initiative between the Other Foundation and the Jacana Literary Foundation. So it is published by Jacana. I got my copy at Love Books at a book sale, I think in 2017. Yeah, and then these are the ones I got at the Jacana book sale. These two. Yeah. So maybe buy them and we read together, because I will read every Wednesday from either of the three. But yeah, welcome for those who just came in. I'm gonna start reading, and then I'll read again at the author's bio for those who just came in. Thank you for joining me. 2 Weddings for Amoit. I don't know how to say this name, but it's written Amoit. I don't know if you can see the pinned title. I did pin it, but it's Amoit by Dilman Dila. Amoit sat on a 3-legged stool, peeling matuke for lunch. Again, remember there was hello, hi everybody, hi Africa. So there was a book that we were reading earlier on during the lockdown, before the extended lockdown, where we discussed how African. Please take a picture of the series. Yoli, I will tag you. I have, for those who haven't been following the live readings, so there is a highlight on my profile. So you can just go onto live book reads. There's a highlight on my profile, and just keep on tapping. There's a lot of, I think there's about over 100 because I've made 2 highlights of these. There is a picture, and I will tag you as well. I'll just have to remember. Yoli. All right. We were talking about, sorry, now I'm going, before I even start reading, how African names and things and phrases are written in italics. I don't know why, but maybe I'll get Lorraine and I to discuss that and find out. But I've noticed that some of the publishers have done away with that, but some people still do it. Like if something is a foreign, it's not even foreign. I mean, it's our things, it's the things that we eat, the things that we do, and they're written in italics. I don't know why, but anyway. Amoit sat on a 3-legged stool, peeling matuke for lunch. Matuke is written in italics. That's why I ended up starting with talking about this. Hello, everybody. Sweat gleamed on her skin, although an air con hummed from the wall. She whistled a tune from a folk song about a man wrongfully accused of stealing chickens, and, aware of Acheng's eyes on her, she shook her shoulders in a dance. She tried not to smile, pretending not to notice Acheng's ogling, but she couldn't fight it anymore. She looked up. Their eyes met, and they both smiled. For the first time since their wedding, they were alone. They married a month ago without any fanfare, without the colorful ceremonies that their ancestors performed during Nyumbantobu weddings. They had simply walked up to the marriage registrar and signed papers. The next day, Amoit had welcomed Acheng into her home with a cake and a red rose. There had been no kiss, no hug, no display of emotions, not even a shake of hands, even though fires blazed through their veins and threatened to overwhelm them. Welcome, Amoit had said. Thank you, Acheng had replied. We shall look after you well, Amoit's husband, Omongo had said. He had stood beside Amoit at the doorway, smiling too hard, holding a white rose. Thank you, Acheng had said, taking both flowers. On the coffee table, beside the new issue of Christian Living Today, there were more papers to sign. Personal terms of the marriage, like how much time Acheng could spend alone with their mutual husband, and how Acheng would relate to the babies she would produce for them, which the registrar did not need to be part of. No one had said a word as they signed the papers. Then Amoit had sliced the cake and poured mango juice into 3 glasses. You are now my wife, Amoit had said, raising her glass in a toast. I'm honored to serve you both. Acheng had replied, raising her glass. Here's to a fertile marriage, Omongo had said. The three had clinked glasses and drank the juice. The two women took tiny sips. Omongo drained his glass in a long swig and then slammed it onto the table. I'm a good man, he said to Acheng. You are now my wife's wife, and I don't know what to call you, so I'll call you my sister-in-law. I won't force myself onto you unless. There's no need for a speech, Acheng had said, cutting him short with a smile. Amoit and Acheng never got time to be alone in the days that followed. Omongo was always present. The planting season had just ended, and because the agrobots took care of tending the maize, getting rid of weeds and pests, watering and spraying fertilizers and growth enhancers, there was little for him to do in the garden. He spent a bit of time monitoring the robots, but other than that, he was home reading his Bible and poring over literature the government sent every day. Now, a month later, the crops would soon be ready for harvest. For the next 2 weeks, he would hardly find any time away from the garden. He would have to prepare the granaries, hire harvesters, find a buyer, and then prepare for the next round of planting. He would be away from home most of the day, and this would give the two men a perfect opportunity to be alone. The two women a perfect opportunity to be alone. Because it was Saturday, Amoit did not have to go to court, and Acheng was not expected at school. They had the house to themselves. A mischievous light twinkled in Acheng's eyes. She looked out the window to make sure there was no one in the backyard, and then she drew the curtains. The room darkened. She then peeped out of the back door to be sure that the yard was empty before pulling the door shut. Sorry. Just want to mute my exciting. They lived in a suburb of little bungalows with wall fences about 4 feet high enclosing each home, so it wasn't strange for a neighbor to pop over to borrow a pinch of salt or a bit of sugar or this or that. Don't you guys miss that? Like neighbors borrowing things and neighbors knocking. I know even before COVID, like it didn't happen with where we live. I mean, like it's just very rare. You just wave from a distance at the neighbors. Like things aren't the way they used to be when we were growing up, where you could be running across the street to your neighbor or whatever to borrow like sugar. Everything is just so now. It's not that it's just COVID, but it's just in general. Besides, they had the only backyard flower garden in the street, which meant neighbors were always climbing over the wall to pick roses. Some neighbors had become so friendly that they didn't have to ask before plucking. Hold on. Just remembered something. Okay. Let me see. Okay. But why would people just jump over people's houses and pluck at roses just because the roses are there, you know? Like, Babi says, yeah, the warmth of neighbors is something I miss. Yeah, like borrowing salt. But I actually, I remember the one time I ran out of flour and I went across to my neighbor Lucy and I asked for flour. So those are some of the things that I miss about living at home and like at my home. Zindatu says, yeah, no, I don't. Especially when we lived in Orlando. People budgeted kamewaka. They weren't boring anymore. Yeah, you find those kind of people who just never buy groceries. Hi, quirky pages. So yeah, for those who just came in, I'm reading Pride and Prejudice. I'm reading from Pride and Prejudice. The title is pinned um, on the chat. Okay. So some neighbors had become so friendly that they didn't have to ask before plucking a few flowers. Finally, a chain closed the inner door that led to the living room and the rest of the house. The only light came from the solar stove. Its blue glow cast a cold ambiance that contrasted with the warmth of flowing between the two women. Acheng smiled, showing off the gap between her front teeth and the deep dimple on her right cheek. These were the two traits that had drawn Amoit to her. Amoit wore a lasso, the ends of which were tied behind her neck. She undid the knot, and the cloth slipped off. Her nipples were long. Her chocolate skin gleamed with sweat and caught the light of the stove, creating the illusion of blue icing on a cake. Acheng knelt between her legs and they kissed. Their first kiss after marriage. They had kissed a lot before the wedding, but always in hiding, in dark places at the park, in the toilets where there were no cameras. Only once had they made love, in Amoit's hall at Makerere University during a rare power outage. Rumor had it the saboteurs had blown up a microwave transmitter, but everyone dismissed this as idle gossip. After all, who would want to sabotage a Christian utopia? Amoit and Acheng took advantage of the blackout, for it meant the security cameras in the hall were dead. Amoit's 3 roommates were not in the dorm at the time, so they made love quickly. They had come at the same instant, as though their bodies were already accustomed to one another. Now they were married. There were no cameras in the house, no one to run into them but Amoit's husband. They finally had time to savor their love. It was not to be. The hum of a bruka blared into the kitchen, growing louder each second. They stopped kissing and listened. They did not expect Omongo back before noon. That might be a neighbor's ornithop. What is this? Please, someone Google ornithopter. Whew. Still, they had to be careful. Though Omongo loved Amoit, he loved his Bible more, and if he caught them, he would send them to the firing squad. The bruka hovered right overhead, preparing to land on the roof pad. It had to be Omongo. The sound of the flying machine intensified. Shaped like an egg with a pair of wings on the top and painted a wine red, the bruka was Omongo's favorite mode of transportation. It was him. They would hear it as the door slid open. The women jumped apart. Amoit fumbled to tie the lesu, cursing. Acheng yanked the curtains open, flooding the kitchen with sunlight, and then pushed open the back door. Amoit resumed peeling bananas while Acheng washed dishes at the sink. A few moments later, Omongo ran in. He had a smile on his face, the same smile that had graced his and Amoit's wedding day a little over a year ago. The smile had vanished 6 months later when a doctor told them Amoit was barren. Okay, Zindatu Googled for me, ornithopter is an aircraft that flies by flapping its wings, from Wikipedia. Thank you, Zindatu. See? Yeah. It's so great to have you back. Okay, so we have now, okay, now we understand the title. Two weddings. 2 weddings for Amoit. 2 weddings for Amoit. So she is barren. A frown had smothered his face since then, and it had deepened as he sank into debt. His garden had thrice failed to yield. The reappearance of the smile could only mean good news. Amoit's first thought was that the garden had done very well, which would allow him to pay off all his debts. Yes, Omongo said, punching the air. What happened? Amoit said, getting to her feet. Yes, 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 he screamed. He hugged her so tight that she couldn't breathe. She shoved him away gently, disentangling from his embrace. His smile widened, showing off his yellowish teeth. We don't need her anymore, he said, breathless. You're not making sense, Amoit said. We don't need her anymore, Omongo said in a whisper, as though he did not want Acheng to overhear. He did not look at Acheng as he spoke. You'll have to divorce her. Half a century ago, the drought they called the Big Burn had reduced the population by half. It left famine and disease in its wake. Though the country had recovered, the population continued to decline. Still today, 50 years later, 1 in 4 women is barren, has suffered miscarriages, or has given birth to stillborn babies. According to the Christian Council, which had become very powerful in the wake of the Big Burn, God was still angry with humanity. Although the Council had succeeded in creating a Christian utopia out of the ashes of the drought, its leaders were adamant that there were still sinners in their midst. God would continue to punish them with population decline until the sinners repented. In another 100 years, their great country would be no more unless everyone became holy. Science failed to help. No medicine could cure barren women. No quality of medical care could stop miscarriages and stillbirths, the causes of which were unknown. Some scientists speculated that infertility was a side effect of the geoengineering that had been necessary to fight the Big Burn. Others argued it was due to the reliance on chemical foods to fight famine. There had been multiple attempts at cloning as a solution, but the babies had so many defects. Oh gosh, this is sad. Defects that they spent 90% of their short lives in hospitals. Most died before their 5th birthdays. As a response, the Christian Council permitted polygamy. They cited the case of Abraham and Sarah as a sign of biblical approval, and they revived an ancient custom, Nyumba Ntobu, in which a barren woman could marry another woman to bear children on her behalf. The woman she married would be her wife and perform all the normal duties of a wife, except making love. They insisted this custom provided evidence that East Africans were the Jews of the Bible. They drew a direct line to Sarah, who urged Abraham to sleep with her maid Hagar so she could have the children God promised her. To avoid promiscuity, once Sarah married Hagar, she would never divorce her. Is it Hagar or Hagar? Apple, apple, April. It's not April, it's apple. But Hagar. To avoid promiscuity, once Sarah married Hagar, she would never divorce her. The twist the Christian Council introduced was that in light of the birthing crisis, a modern-day Sarah could lend a modern-day Hagar to other childless couples once Hagar was proven to be successfully fertile. Husbands were not allowed to lend out their wives, and, in fact, they had a duty to prevent homosexuality within their marriages. The council was at pains to emphasize that the arrangement was purely entered into for procreation, not for lustful purposes. If the police found Sarah and Hagar to be lesbians and the husband didn't report them, then all three would face the firing squad. Amoit had fallen in love with Acheng during a church choir practice while still in university. Their deep Christian upbringing told them it was a sin, one of the sins that caused God to punish the country with a declining population. Still, they could not resist temptation. They met in secret, in the toilets, in dark places, for only a few seconds, to relish in the desire they had for each other. They knew there were others like them, sinners, living in secret Sodoms and Gomorrahs. They searched until they found an underground group, unsurprisingly called Survivors of Gomorrah. There they learned how to enjoy their love right under the nose of the Christian council. There were many tricks. The favorite was Nyumba Ntobu. Once this pathway was opened up to them, Amoit seduced Omongo and they got married. Amoit consulted a doctor in the group who certified her as barren, and with this certificate she convinced Omongo to allow her to find a Haga. But we need children, Amoit said. How can we get rid of her if we can't have children? Science saves the day, Omongo said. He pulled out his ISINC and showed her the headline, or maybe it's a scientific magazine, and showed her the headline, Breakthrough in Reproductive Health. For decades, scientists had tried to use the knowledge God gave them to ensure the survival of the country. They succeeded in genetic engineering of crops and splicing species to create new breeds, but they had failed to address population decline. Hi, Books and Rhymes. Hi everybody. Hi, Queen. Hey, Nikki. Reading dates, not just for bookworms. Hello. So she wasn't barren. Yeah. So she wasn't barren. I like doing these readings, and like when I know I'm reading a story for the first time. So all these volumes I haven't read, so I'm reading them with you for the first time. So at Books and Rhymes says, I caught today's session. I thought I missed it. So glad. Yeah. So Wednesdays are the Gerald Kraak anthology days where I read the 3. So for those who came in late, that is what I'm reading today. I'm reading Two Weddings for Amoit. I think that's how you say her name. But Amoit isn't barren. She just seduced her husband to make sure that she ends up marrying her lover. Okay, where was I? He pulled out his the ISNIC and showed her the headline, Breakthrough in Reproductive Health. For decades, scientists had tried to use the knowledge God gave them to ensure the survival of the country. They succeeded in genetic engineering of crops and splicing species to create new breeds, but they had failed to address population decline. Until now, finally, they had successfully managed to create an artificial womb by using cells from the endometrium. They call the technology Nucera, and it not only prevented miscarriages, stillbirths, and premature births, it also solved infertility and made conceiving using cloned sperms and eggs a more efficient process. Oh, Amoit started to groan. but remembered that she was supposed to be happy. "Yay," she said, "but it works perfectly for us," Omongo said. "Yes, it does," Omongo said. Amoit said. "But the Bible does not allow divorce." "Well," Omongo said, "the council will grant us a divorce license. It won't be a sin." He showed her a paragraph in the article. It said that 16 women and 4 men had been executed for homosexuality in the previous year, up from 6 women and no men the year before. This, according to the police, indicated that some people were abusing Nyumba Ntobu, and as they now had New Sira, the Christian Council will have to annul Nyumba Ntobu. He read aloud, "All Hagars will have the right to leave with their children, seeing that barren women can now have children of their own." The article ended on an ambiguous note, stating that New Sira was still a very expensive technology and not everybody would be able to afford it. What would annulling marriages mean for the poor? "Ask her if she is pregnant," Omongo said. Amoit wondered why he could not talk directly to Acheng. She turned to Acheng, but she could not look into her eyes for fear that it would betray their relationship. "Are you pregnant?" Amoit asked her. "No," Acheng said. "I bled this morning." "Good," Omongo said. "The divorce will be easy." Amoit clung to the hope that New Sira would be too expensive. Though the government would offer subsidies to ensure as many women as possible bore children, each pregnancy would cost 100,000 shillings. In future, the technology might become more affordable that it could become a free government program, but the scientists quoted said it would not happen anytime soon. Omongo was already in debt to the tune of 500,000 shillings. He inherited the garden from his father, who had used natural seeds to grow crops, but of late the Christian Council had decreed that all farmers use genetically engineered seeds, which were manufactured by a corporation called Bejet. The idea was to ensure that humanity did not fall victim to calamities like the Big Burn again. Survivors of Gomorrah were skeptical. Many thought it was a secret mind control program. Who knew what drugs they were putting into the food supply? Omongo had to buy Bejet seeds with a terminator gene, which made it impossible to replant or keep a seed bank. However, Bejet products were magical. They matured in only 1 month, which guaranteed farmers quick returns. Despite this, Omongo had failed to make a profit since switching from natural seeds. The last 3 harvests had been so dismal that he had to borrow money to buy new seeds each time he wanted to plant. Neither Bejet nor the Department of Agriculture could give him a proper explanation for the failed harvests. "There might be a sin in your life," an officer from the Department of Agriculture had told him. "God might be withholding the harvest to tell you to look carefully at your life. Maybe it is because you don't have children." It was after this that Omongo had agreed to allow a Hagar into their family. He had wanted to obey God's command of going forth and multiplying. At the same time, he had followed the advice of Bejet and gone fully mechanical. He got a loan to buy agrobots, and although his debt increased, he no longer had to pay workers. The agrobots looked after his garden more efficiently than any human could, monitoring the growth of each and every plant with meticulous precision. They had generated daily reports, which made him anticipate a bounty harvest. "Can we afford it?" Amoit had asked. Even with good harvests, it would take Omongo 5 years to clear his debts. Another 2 years would be required to afford new Sirah. Amoit's salary at a gross of 10,000 a year was negligible. Oh gosh, guys, this reading live, nochal. They could not count on it. I have done everything by the book. A budget official has been checking the agrobots every few days. I married a Hagar to have children. What more can I do? To the best of my knowledge, everything is right in the garden, and everything is right between me and God. I will have a bounty harvest and will be on my feet in a year. All this I declare in the name of Jesus. Amen, Amoit said. I bind those demons that have been frustrating my garden. I claim a bounty harvest in the name of Jesus. Omongo went down on his knees and burst into a fervent prayer. He cast out demons, asking God to bless his garden, asking forgiveness for whatever crimes he had committed but did not know about. Omongo pleaded with God to remove the curse on his garden. Amoit went on her knees with him, and after a few moments, Acheng joined them. The prayer went on for 20 minutes, by which time Amoit's knees were hurting, and she was silently praying that God would shut up her husband. Her prayers were answered. God, I know you've heard my cry, Omongo concluded. I know you'll open the door for me. Amen, Amoit said. They stood up. Omongo kissed her and then said to Acheng, I'm sorry, and walked out. Hi, Piling. Hi, everybody. Sind dazu so much juice. Amoit waited until she heard him going up the stairs to the roof pad, and then she hugged Acheng and kissed her on the lips. We'll find a way, she said. Amoit ran after Omongo and caught up with him just as he turned the ignition on the Bruca. The craft hummed in preparation for takeoff. Omongo slid open the door. It might be a good idea to make her pregnant, she said. Are you scared we won't afford it? No, she said. I have faith that God will answer our prayers, but new Sirah is a better take. Anything can go wrong. It might not deliver efficiently as promised. All I'm saying is that since we have this opportunity, we should try to use it. I don't like sleeping with her, Omongo said. We still have to follow God's word, Amoit said. We have to multiply. Let's not throw away this chance until new Sirah takes a firm root. He was silent for several moments. It tortures me every time I look at her, he said. I know, Amoit said. I pray every day for God to open up my womb the way he did for Sarah, so that you don't have to go through all this. I love you, he finally said. They kissed. She broke off too soon, but he did not protest. He closed the door and the Bruca jumped into the air. She watched until the ornithopter vanished and along the horizon, thinking that if Acheng got pregnant, they would have 2 more years together. There was enough time to make an alternative plan. She felt sorry for Omongo for using him. He was a He was a fanatic Christian who believed the Big Burn and the ensuing great famine and diseases were signs of the end of times, and that the rapture would happen soon, taking all pure Christians to their true home in heaven. While she respected his right to believe in these things, she was tired of the implications. Amoit thought that it was people like Omongo who had caused the Big Burn. By insisting that Earth was not home, that home was somewhere else, and that their God gave them dominion over Earth, they behaved in ways that destroyed it. Okay, guys, I have to go. But the story is long and it's It's beautifully written, I think. And yes, there is juice. Sure, it continues for a while. Yeah. So that was a reading from Two Weddings for Amoit. Two Weddings for Amoit by Dilman Dila. And this is from the first volume of the Gerald Kraak anthology, African Perspectives on Gender, Social Justice and Sexuality. That's the cover. I hope you've enjoyed my reading, and this live I'm going to save onto IGTV for those who came in late and for those who will come in after, and this will also be loaded onto YouTube. There are other videos of my reading that I've been doing for the past couple of months, but the YouTube channel is brand new, so please go and subscribe and comment and watch all the other videos that I've uploaded from these lives. Thank you so much for everybody that came in and joined me. I hope you enjoyed it. Yoli says fire, fire, fire. So there is fire in here. Obviously there is the lesbian couple that actually managed to, the one lady managed to convince her husband to get a Hagar, and she is supposedly struggling to conceive, and which she isn't, which is what we discovered. But yeah, this is, let me read the author's bio for you. The bios are at the back. Dilman Dila is the author of a critically acclaimed collection of short stories, A Killing in the Sun. He has been shortlisted in several awards, including the BBC International Playwriting Competition in 2014, the Commonwealth Short Story Prize in 2013, and the Short Story Day Africa Prize 2013 and 2014. A number of his short stories have featured in several magazines and anthologies. His films include What Happened in Room 13 in 2007 and The Felistas Fable in 2013, which was nominated for Best First Feature at the Africa Movie Academy Awards in 2014 and won 4 major awards at the Uganda Film Festival. Some of these stories are very brilliant. They can actually be turned into films. So I'm looking forward to reading these with you guys, and I'm really enjoying it, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. So I read from Pride and Prejudice. That's the first one, and the second one is called As You Like It. That's the second volume, and the third one is The Heart of the Matter. I love the titles. So I will share a picture at the end of this on the stories, and for those who would like to see the journey of the live book reading, there is a highlight on the profile. It's called live book readings. Yeah, live book readings. Yeah, but there are 2 highlights because the other one ended up getting full. But yes, thank you so much, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. Kumbu says the movies would be great. Yes, I think the movies would be great. I also love that there's pictures, there's photography, there's poetry as well. There's pictures in here. So this picture that got on the cover is part of a series. The entry, which is also a joint winner for this. This is A Stranger in Familiar Land by Sarah Waiswa. These are the pictures that feature in there. And yeah, Miss Weiner says, with the rate we are going, we will read the entire series. Yes. Miss Weiner, I wonder if you actually have received your your collection. I actually pinned this poem that I was gonna read, but I will do it next week. I just liked the name, Midnight in Lusikisiki, or The Ruin of the Gentle Women. But yeah, let me see how much time I have. Okay, let me just read it. This is Midnight in Lusikisiki, or The Ruin of the Gentle Women, by Sindiswa Busuku Matese. One by one, the old women folk appear. Each falls to her knees in a field of mud. Floral pinafores flapping in the wind. Rain rolls down their faces and into their eyes. They are draped in black shawls. The trees above are creaking. They turn to look at each other. The field has turned to blood. They whisper into each other's hands, "Cover me with a veil." Evening has collapsed. After a long silence, they climb to their feet. Then the womenfolk begin to walk backwards. A fluorescent swarm of fireflies rises agile in the sky. Each woman scatters in a separate direction. Each disappears into the tall maze, all of them waving and smiling so broadly their lips begin to crack. The field has turned to bone. Soon they begin to laugh uncontrollably through their tears and their blood-stained teeth, whispering, "Lonman has hollowed out our aching bodies." Sure. These could also be like, these quick films. So Miss Winer's receiving hers tomorrow from Loot. Yes, it is from Loot, Simole. So Sindiswa Busuku Matesa was born in 1990 in Durban. She is currently based in Stellenbosch and is a PhD student at Stellenbosch University. She has recently published her first collection of poetry, titled Loud and Yellow Laughter, and published by Botsotso. She has also published several poems in various local poetry journals, such as New Coin, New Contrast, Proof Rock, Aerodrome, and Ons Kleintjie, and has featured in the Solplaatjie European Union anthology. Oh, that's another anthology that is beautiful. I must actually collect that. She was awarded second place for the 2015 Solplaatjie European Union Award for her poem Portrait of a Mother, an Indiscretion. Okay, guys, I am done for the day. This will be on IGTV in the next minute or so. Oh, it's Wednesday today. Oh, my bad. Yeah, happy Wednesday. See you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Bye.